The cantina on station Epsilon 7 fell silent as Zarkoth entered. The towering Vraxian mercenary's 4 arms hung loose at his sides, each capable of crushing a skull with minimal effort. His chitinous exoskeleton bore the scars of 1,000 battles across 36 worlds. When Zarkoth spoke, entire systems listened. Tonight, he had come to deliver a warning. Leo sat in the corner booth, nursing a glass of Terran whiskey that had cost him half a week's salary. The young human freighter pilot barely looked up when the legendary mercenary approached. Beside him, Bella, his navigator and best friend since the academy, tensed slightly, her hand instinctively moving toward the plasma pistol at her hip. "Easy," Leo murmured, though he kept his eyes on Zarkoth's reflection in his glass. The Vraxian stopped at their table, his compound eyes glittering in the dim light. Around them, the usual din of the cantina remained suppressed. Everyone wanted to hear what the galaxy's most feared warrior had to say to these unremarkable humans. "You are Leo Chen," Zarkoth said, his voice like grinding stone. "And you are Bella Rodriguez." "Depends who's asking," Bella replied coolly. Zarkoth's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. 3 cycles ago, the Krellian Syndicate put a bounty on human heads. Did you know this? Leo finally looked up, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "We'd heard rumors." "They hired me," Zarkoth continued. "Offered me enough credits to buy my own moon. All I had to do was capture a dozen humans, alive preferably, for their experiments." Bella's fingers wrapped around her pistol grip, and I refused. The cantina erupted in whispers. Zarkoth had never refused a contract. Never. Leo gestured to the empty seat across from them. "You came all this way to tell us you didn't take a job." Zarkoth settled his massive frame into the reinforced chair. "I came to explain why, and to warn others who might be foolish enough to accept what I would not." He leaned forward, and despite themselves, both humans found themselves drawn into the story. 15 cycles ago, I accepted my first human contract, Zarkoth began. Simple extraction. A human mining colony on Theta 9 had discovered valuable ore deposits in sovereignty space. My employers wanted them removed. I thought it would be easy. Humans were new to the stars then, soft, weak, no natural weapons or armor. Bella and Leo exchanged glances but said nothing. I brought my best team, 12 elite Vraxian warriors. We hit the colony at night expecting minimal resistance. There were 37 humans there, miners, families. We thought we'd have them in restraints within the hour. Zarkoth's voice grew quieter, forcing everyone in the cantina to lean in. We didn't account for human stubbornness, or human creativity, or human fury when protecting their own. He paused, reaching for Leo's whiskey. The human didn't object as the mercenary took a long drink. The first thing that surprised us was their refusal to surrender. Even when outgunned, even when their situation was hopeless, they fought. A human female, couldn't have weighed more than 60 kilos, took out 3 of my warriors with a mining laser and improvised explosives made from fertilizer and fuel cells. Bella smiled grimly. Sounds about right. But it wasn't just their willingness to fight, Zarkoth continued. It was how they fought. Humans don't have claws or chitin or acid glands, but they have something far more dangerous, the ability to turn anything into a weapon. They used the mining equipment against us. They hacked our communications. They set traps using their own life support systems as bait. The mercenary's eyes grew distant with memory. There was one human, called himself Marcus, just a maintenance technician. He sealed himself in the reactor room and threatened to overload the core unless we withdrew. My team leader laughed, told him he was bluffing, that no species values individual glory over collective survival enough to commit suicide. What happened? Leo asked quietly. Marcus started the overload sequence. Gave us 60 seconds to evacuate. My team leader still didn't believe him, right up until the 30-second mark when Marcus's vital signs flatlined. He'd injected himself with enough sedatives to stop his heart rather than risk changing his mind. Zarkoth's mandibles clicked slowly. We barely made it to minimum safe distance before the reactor went critical, lost 2 more warriors in the blast. The colony was destroyed, but so was our mission, all because one human refused to be moved. Bella lifted her own glass. To Marcus. To Marcus, Zarkoth echoed, surprising them both. That was when I learned the first rule about humans, the mercenary said. You cannot threaten them into submission. Fear is a tool that works on every species I've encountered except yours. Humans feel fear. I've seen it in their eyes, but they do something no other species does. They acknowledge the fear and then they act anyway. He gestured to the bartender for another round. The second rule I learned on Ganymede Station. I was hired to retrieve a human scientist who had stolen research data. Simple snatch and grab. The target was a young woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, perhaps a relative of yours. Leo shrugged noncommittally. She was unarmed, untrained in combat. I cornered her in a laboratory. She smiled at me, actually smiled. Then she told me she just released an airborne pathogen that would kill every non-human in the station within 6 hours unless they received the antidote she'd prepared. Bluffing again? Bella asked. No, she'd really done it. I could see the aerosol still dispersing from the vents. She'd infected herself too, said human immune systems could fight it off naturally, but it would liquefy Vraxian organs. Zarkoth's voice held a note of grudging respect. I asked her why she would do something so extreme. She said, because you came for me, so now you'll negotiate with me. And we did. I got her to safety. She gave us the antidote. But the message was clear. Humans will absolutely burn everything down rather than surrender. They'll poison themselves, blow themselves up, or unleash devastation that hurts them too if it means you can't win. Leo finally spoke up. That's why you refused the Krellian contract. Partially, Zarkoth acknowledged. But there's a third rule, the most important one. The cantina had gone completely silent now. Humans pack bond. Bella laughed. Pack bond like animals. Yes, but not with their own species exclusively. Humans will pack bond with anything. I've seen human soldiers adopt 6-legged predators from death worlds as pets. I've watched human children befriend sentient crystals. There's a human freighter captain who considers her ship's AI her daughter. Zarkoth's gaze swept across both of them. Humans form attachments that defy logic, and once a human decides you're part of their pack, they will move planets to protect you. But more importantly, if you hurt something a human has pack bonded with, they will pursue you with a patience and determination that borders on supernatural. He leaned back, all 4 arms spread wide. The Krellian Syndicate wanted to experiment on humans, but here's what they didn't understand. Humans have been out in the galaxy for less than a century, and in that time, they've befriended dozens of species. They've married into alien families. They've adopted alien children. They've formed business partnerships, military alliances, and deep friendships across species barriers that have existed for millennia. So Bella challenged. So if the Krellians start hunting humans, they won't just face human retaliation. They'll face every species that humanity has pack bonded with. The Zenthari will remember that human medics saved their colony ship from plague. The Thorians will recall that human engineers rebuilt their homeworld's orbital defenses for free. The Kicks will think of the human teacher who learned their language and helped translate their history for galactic archives. Zarkoth stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the table. I've fought against humans. I've fought alongside them. And I've learned that the most dangerous thing in this galaxy isn't their weapons or their tactics or their stubborn refusal to quit. It's their ability to make you care about them, to make you want to protect them, to make you willing to fight for them. He placed a credit chip on the table, enough to pay for their drinks 100 times over. The Krellian Syndicate didn't listen to my warning. They hired other mercenaries, cheaper ones. Last I heard, those mercenaries hit a human settlement on the Outer Rim 3 days ago. And Leo asked. And the Galactic Council just received a formal declaration of intent from the Human Systems Alliance. They're mobilizing their fleet. But more importantly, 17 other species have pledged support. Species that have never cooperated on anything before, all coming together because humans asked them to. Zarkoth turned to leave, then paused. I survived my contracts with humans because I learned to respect them. I learned that they're not prey. They're pack hunters who chose to be civilized. But when threatened, that civilization becomes a very thin veneer. He looked back at Leo and Bella one last time. Tell your people this. Zarkoth, who has conquered worlds and brought empires to their knees, advises the galaxy to leave humanity alone. Not because humans are the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but because humans have something far more dangerous. They have friends. Real friends. The kind who will go to war for them. With that, the legendary mercenary walked out of the cantina, leaving behind a room full of thoughtful aliens and 2 humans who raised their glasses in silent acknowledgement. Outside, the stars glittered cold and distant, but somewhere among them, fleets were gathering. Not just human fleets, but armadas of allied species, all bound together by something as simple and powerful as friendship. And in the darkness between the stars, the Krellian Syndicate began to understand their mistake. The end.